Welcome back to the Aggression in Dogs Conference. All of the talks are pre-recorded and played right here on the main stage. If you're having technical issues with the live presentation, a YouTube link will be provided in the chat box where you can find the presentation and watch it in another browser window. Professional closed captioning is available by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your video window. If you experience any other tech issues during the live presentation, please visit the info desk in the lobby or drop a question in the chat box. Information about continuing education credits, as well as a link to download PDFs of the presentation slides, can be found at the info desk. Stick around for Q&A time right after, also here on the main stage. And just so you're aware, there will be a slight delay of about a minute or so in between the presentation and the Q&A session. If you have any questions for Trish, please enter them into the Q&A box so she can see them outside of the chat box. We also have lots of prizes to give away if you're attending the conference live. You can earn points for the contest by engaging in activities such as visiting our amazing exhibit hall. Don't forget to join us for our virtual cocktail party tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, happening with our speakers right here on the main stage. So bring your favorite beverage and join us on the chat. And this talk is sponsored by the Loose Leash Academy, where you can find both online and in-person CEU seminars across the country for anyone hungry to learn more about dog training and behavior. Upcoming events include the Aggression in Dogs Defensive Handling and Training Workshop with both me and Trish McMillan, and the Great Big Dog Aggression Workshop with me and Dr. Chris Pockle, and of course, the Aggression in Dogs Conference in 2021. And now, on to our next wonderful speaker, Trish McMillan, who holds a Master of Science degree in Animal Behavior and is a certified professional dog trainer, certified dog behavior consultant, and associate certified cat behavior consultant. She worked for the ASPCA for nearly 8 years at their New York City location, and then as part of their field team, helping assess and rehabilitate dogs from cruelty cases, dogfighting, and hoarding situations. Trish does animal behavior consulting in Asheville, North Carolina, working with dogs, cats, and horses. Her farm, Pibble Hill, is currently home to mostly rescued animals of 5 species. Trish speaks and consults nationally and internationally on animal sheltering issues, dog, cat, and horse behavior, dog aggression, and defensive handling. She's a good friend of mine and someone who has taught me a lot over the years, and I'm excited to see her ninja skills in this upcoming talk.
Hi, I'm Trish McMillan, and I am really excited to be presenting at the Aggression in Dogs Conference. My talk is on secrets of the shelter ninjas. So I'm going to go into some things that I wish I had known earlier on in my shelter career. So there's a lot that dog trainers can learn from shelter handlers. We in the shelter world are handling dogs under extreme stress a lot of the time. So I'm going to go through a few tips on transferring dogs from place to place, especially if you don't have time on your side, doing it quickly and efficiently, how to handle some pretty tricky dogs safely. There might be some new tricks in here for you trainer types. I'll go a little bit into defensive handling, although that is not the topic of this particular talks. And I'm going to go through a few shelter tools that you might consider adding to your toolbox as a dog trainer. So what are we going to go through? Well, obviously in the shelter world, you want to use positive reinforcement techniques first. We love low stress handling methods. The goal with any aggressive dog, whether they're in the shelter or not, is first of all to meet their needs. A lot of aggression will be lessened if the dog's basic needs are met. And some of these are kind of quick and dirty techniques for when you just need to get stuff done. When you're working with dogs in a home, you have time to do things like desensitize them to a muzzle. I had to assess this hoarder dog the day after he was pulled out of the shelter hoarding situation he'd been living in for years, so I didn't have time to get him used to any of the equipment. We just had to figure out what to do with these dogs. So I'll go through some moving and handling and a little bit of what to do if things go wrong. So think about it. Here's a dog in his kennel on the first day in a shelter. This is probably the hardest day of his life. Look at the matting on this dog. He's just lost his home. Perhaps he was seized as a cruelty case. I don't know the history of this particular dog, although I did take the picture. It was not at my shelter. Maybe his owner died. Maybe nobody in the family wanted to take on this dog who clearly hasn't been groomed in a while. He might have been stray. They might have caught him on the street. He might have been given up by his previous owners, and we don't have weeks to decompress before we get him groomed, before we get him vetted. We need to get him out of there. The number one risk to behavioral deterioration with shelter dogs is length of stay, so the clock is ticking. So in the first few days in a shelter, a dog needs to go through their vet exam. They're going to get their vaccines on intake, deworming, that sort of thing. If they need grooming, like that poor little guy in the last slide, we will figure out their behavior. If they need to be spay-neutered, that will happen. And then we'll, during all of this, we're trying to figure out what type of home would be best for that dog. So the first thing we need to do is meet the dog's needs. So look at this poor little dog in the shelter on the left. He's in a pretty barren cage. He's sitting on some concrete. He doesn't have a whole lot to do in there. Compare his life to your owned dog on the right, who is sleeping not just in a bed, but under the covers and having his covers pulled up. And that is my pit bull, Theodore. So some of the basic concepts of shelter handling: we want to be gentle with the dogs. There's a whole program, Fear-Free Shelters. If you're a shelter volunteer or a shelter worker, it is free. I'm not going to go into that here. I'm just mentioning it because if you are working in a shelter, it would be great if everybody was trained in low stress handling. It's really important to give dogs choice. And think about this when you're working with dogs in homes too. I live on Pibble Hill. This is a 3.5 acre farm. My dogs have a lot of choice here. I've got a doggy door right behind me that they can go in and out of most of the time. Not right now, it's nighttime, there's coyotes. I close the door. But mostly they have a lot of choice, whether they want to be inside or outside, whether they want to play with their friends or not, whether they want to hang with the chickens. Lots and lots of choices, and I think that makes a happy dog. So in a shelter situation, we don't have a lot of choice. Ideally, they should have the choice of going in and out. Ideally, they should have a bed, a blanket, and a toy. It's really important for dogs to see sunlight. I think this applies to apartment dogs as well. Getting them outside, it just makes all of us feel better. And you can see these dogs all have the choice of whether to be seen or not seen. They can go into their kennel and hide out if they just need a nap and they don't want to deal with people. I've seen people put barriers up. Be cautious of barriers, especially in a kennel situation, because total sensory deprivation does not make animals feel any better. If you're going to put a sheet up, put it across half of the front of the kennel vertically so that the dog can choose whether to be seen or not. Exercise is super important for any animal with behavior problems. I've seen so many under-exercised dogs. I told you about the Pibble Hill setup with the doggy door. I have a GPS tracker on my youngest dog, and she does between 6 and 12 miles a day just on the farm if we don't go anywhere. So we don't want to make them into marathon runners. I'm not real big on putting dogs on treadmills for hours and hours, but I think they need to run every day until their tongue hangs out at least once, maybe twice. And great ways to do that: playing fetch, playing with dogs, playing tug, using a flirt pole, get them chasing a toy on a stick. But it's super important to get dogs out. So whether it's a dog in the home, they need to see something that's not the home every day, and especially for dogs in the kennel. There are some dogs who are jerks in the kennel, and they will make a lot of noise. They will be quite barrier reactive. And it's amazing how many of them will change how they feel about you if you just talk to them like an owner would. Use some of the words that they might have heard in their home. Hey, you want to go for a walk? Pull out your leash. And often it's when you crack the door that the dog will change their mind. And of course, treats are your friends. you've got them out a couple of times, they will start coming to the front of the kennel. They will change their mind about things. A lot of shelters see a dog barking in a kennel and decide, nope, not going to take that dog out. But use your words, use your treats, use non-confrontational body language. So here's a more difficult dog. Here's kind of a shelter ninja trick from my friend Delise in Sacramento. She does some amazing handling with the dogs at her shelter. You can use different tools to extend your arm. You're going to see her using a pegboard to block the dog from being able to bite the bottom half of the person. And the only use I have for an assess a hand is to hold a leash.
There we go, thank you. Okay, bud, let's go. Come on, bud. Let's go, dude. Good boy, bud.
Dog feels a little different once they're out of the cage. You see the tail starting to wag, and it's so important to get to assess them outside of the kennel environment. So some of the shelter safety tools that you may want to add to your toolbox as a dog trainer, and I'll go through these in a little more detail, not all of them, but most of them. I'm going to go into the uses for a slip lead. I think there are many situations that we dog trainers might consider using this, and there are absolutely situations in the shelter where it's the right tool. You may want to use gloves with some dogs, whether they're just mechanics gloves, the handling gloves to reduce wear and tear on your hands, or full-on Kevlar gloves with a tricky dog like that last one who was showing some aggression when the leash got near. I'll go through a little bit on toweling dogs or using a blanket to pick up a small dog, how to use a release leash with your slip lead, and some of these tools for self-defense, spray shield, pet corrector, air horn, and a brake stick, I think should be in your toolbox. I'm not going to go into them in great detail, but you can buy a self-defense kit, a safety kit from the Loose Leash Academy, which is the organization putting on this conference, and I am sure Joanne can drop a link in the chat where to get those. Some of the optional tools that you might need if you have a boarding facility, if you have a doggy daycare, if you have occasion to maybe sometimes handle dogs who feel like this guy does, you might want to learn how to use a control pole. You can consider getting a snappy snare, which is a very lightweight version of the control pole that you can use on smaller dogs or less serious dogs than this guy. I'll show you a video of a rolling crate. That is a way to move a dog who doesn't know how to walk on leash or who might misbehave on the control pole. And you may want to use Kevlar pants or a Kevlar sleeve if you're going to be regularly working with dogs who feel like this guy does. So the number one thing you should do if you're handling difficult dogs is really become a body language wizard. You've got to be able to read these dogs and change your handling style as the dog changes how they feel. And that is not the focus of this talk, but just keep on learning. It's so important. Sometimes you'll get places faster by taking things a little bit slower rather than pushing the dog. And treats are absolutely invaluable when you're handling difficult dogs. You can see my little bait bag here. I would never go into handle shelter dogs without some sort of snacks on me, unless it's the type of dog who's going to grab the bait bag off me and guard it. But usually I will find a way to have some treats with me because they can get you out of a pickle. I'll talk a little bit about leash holds, how to handle defensively, and some of the tools of the trade. So it's really important to use your body language to defuse aggression in dogs. The frontal approach, where you're head on to the dog, can be quite scary to them. You can turn just at 45 degrees, look at them out of the side of your eye rather than staring them down. If it's safe to, you can make yourself smaller. I will often use the kennel to do that so I can squat down, but it's through a kennel bar so the dog can't hurt me. And your voice is a great tool. Use your happy voice, use words that they might have heard from their owner. And of course, we're going to pair everything with snacks. So here's a little bit of non-threatening body language from Singapore. I might make a different footwear choice, but she just handles this really kind of conflicted dog quite nicely by getting smaller. So this is a fearful dog. This is not an aggressive dog, but she is going to try to make friends with the dog by making herself look less scary. So Mike, that's a street dog from Singapore. Mike loves his street dogs. They do really great work with them at the shelter. So, handling a dog. Really important to use a leash that fits your hand. So here's my spiel on that. It's really important when you're handling dogs defensively to have a leash that fits your hand rather than thinking, well, it's a big dog, I better get a really big leash. Because what happens with a really thick leash like this is a 1-inch leash. It is too thick for my hands. You'll see it. I can't even close my hand correctly around it. So this one is, I can't close my hand correctly on it. When I double it up and try to do the leash holds, it just feels like a big wad of fabric in my hand. So this one's no good. You might go for a thinner leash. This one again is too small for my hands. You can see up against my hand. It is really thin. It's going to cut if I'm working with a big dog. I'm not going to have quite as good a grip on it. So this one's too thin. It's going to go away. Here's another one that's even thinner. This is a nylon leash. I prefer a leather leash just for the grippiness. Really, this is great as a release for your figure 8 leash, which we'll talk about. But unless I'm handling a tiny little poodle, this one doesn't fit my hands either. So my hand's a normal female hand. The 5/8 inch leash is a pretty good fit. This is a very strong leash. It's a nylon leash. Leather can also be quite strong. I can do all of the leash moves with this. I can easily lengthen, shorten, even if I do 2 accordions. I can close my hand on the whole piece of fabric. So this is a correctly fitted leash for my hand. So make sure that your leash fits you. Don't think about what fits the dog. If it fits your hand, you'll be able to do all the defensive handling maneuvers with it. So the rope leads fit pretty much any hands. This is often what we use at the shelter. They're nice and soft on the dog's neck. They're thicker than the nylon leash I was using in the last slide. And there are some good reasons to use a slip lead. They're not for every occasion, but I'll go through some of the pros and cons, and I hope you'll at least keep one in your car for catching loose dogs. I don't know about you, but loose dogs just find me when I'm out driving around. Dogs who are wary of equipment can also be more easily handled with a slip lead. You can drop it on them from a little bit of a distance. You don't have to have your hand fiddling around with their collar, or you don't have to fiddle with a harness. With dogs who might try to redirect on you, it can be put on easily. It can be used to hold the dog away from you. And I'll show you how to use a release leash for dogs who are hard to put back in a kennel. A slip lead's not for everything. I have met shelters that use slip leads on every single dog, and they keep these dogs for weeks, months, or years. And a dog pulling on a piece of equipment that tightens indefinitely every single time they go out can actually do some damage to their throat. So if you've got long-term dogs, teach them how to wear a harness, teach them how to wear some different equipment, and better yet, don't keep dogs for years. Get them out of there. If you're working with dogs like some of the hoarder dogs I've worked with who've never been on a leash, and as soon as they feel leash pressure, they start gator rolling, not the right tool to have a leash that tightens indefinitely. And the dogs who have learned to sort of get it in their back teeth and scissor through it, this rope lead can be scissored through pretty quickly. I'll talk about some of the alternatives for those guys. So the correct place to put a slip lead to handle a dog who might be a little bit tricky is high up on the dog's neck. You can see this is right behind his ears. It's important to fit it to the side you're handling on. So I'm a left-sided handler, and this picture is a correctly fitted leash to handle this dog on my left side. When you're putting it on, make sure you can see how the ring is sort of at 3 o'clock rather than at 12 o'clock. You can also make any leash into a slip lead just by running the leash through its own handle. So about the 3 o'clock thing, if you hold, I wish somebody had shown me this when I first started working in shelters. I used to hold the slip lead right where the ring was, and that makes a long, narrow loop that's kind of hard to get over a dog's head. And somebody showed me how to put the ring at 3 o'clock, and suddenly you can hold that loop open and easily get it over the dog's head. So wish I had learned that a little earlier. So when you're putting it on the dog, you don't want to approach frontally and just shove it over the dog's head. You're going to sort of, especially with kind of a tricky dog or a fearful dog, you're going to go up a little bit sideways to the dog and gently pop it over their head. So here's a correctly fitted leash for handling this dog on my left side. So you can see if I loosen the leash, if he's walking nicely, you can see how easily it loosens when it's fitted correctly. If I put him on my right side, you can see how it kind of makes a zigzag behind his back, and it's harder to release the leash. So I'm going to put the stopper down so that he doesn't walk right out of it. But handling the dog on the left, make sure that it tightens across the top of his neck so that you can easily release it if he's walking nicely. So here's a cool trick that I learned just in the last couple of years, and I learned this from Tristan, who works at the ASPCA Rehab Center. She's a wonderful handler, and here is a way to get a slip lead onto a fearful dog, and rather than even just casually slipping it on from the front, you can actually drop it on from the back. So getting dogs in and out of kennels, I prefer kennels that open outward. If you're designing your own kennels and you want me to work at them, make sure they open out. It's easier than having to go in with the dog. You can easily brace it with your toe so that the dog can't pop it and go flying past you. So here's my friend Arthur taking a really jumpy, mouthy jerk of a fight bus pit bull out of the exercise area and taking him back to his kennel in the temporary shelter. So you can see he's using handling gloves. He's using mechanics gloves, which is a favorite of ASPCA handlers. He's using a pepperoni to get the dog's head into the right position to put the slip lead on. And this is a really quick video, and good handling is quick and efficient. And believe me, if you had gone into this kennel and chased this dog around and tried to get a leash on him, and he jumped and grabbed and stole your bait bag and stole your leash and ran around and had a grand old time, you would have made him worse instead of better. And our goal in handling shelter dogs is to make them better every time you handle him. So here's some nice slip lead handling by Arthur. You can see how the dog hesitated. He didn't really want to go back to his kennel, and Arthur just showed him the treat again and lured him forward over the bar, and then he was fine. Here's the same thing in reverse. Notice he's got his leash in position. He's putting the dog's head where he needs it to take the leash off. He's bracing the kennel with his foot, and this is a kennel that does not push all the way in. He's got the latch flipped so that if the dog hits the kennel, he can just brace it with his foot and the dog can't get out. And he's just going to gently take the slip lead off with the help of the pepperoni. So if you're going to hold a slip lead with two hands, this is what 7 position looks like. You can see it goes, I've got my thumb lock on my right hand, it's going across and then straight down. Really important that it comes out of the pinky side of your hand. You will have a lot more strength if you need to hold the dog away from you if the leash is coming out of the bottom of your hand. So you will see that in all of the leash holds that it ends up coming out of the pinky side of your hand. If it comes out of the top of your hand and you need to hold that dog away from you, it's going to kind of tweak your whole hand over and you're not going to have as much strength. So this is a dog at Brother Wolf who was super jumpy mouthy. He's a nice dog, but he's just a meatball. And I had put him back in the wrong kennel. I just needed to transfer him into the kennel next door. So his designated walking equipment is a front attach harness. And if I had gone in there and wrestled him into his front attach harness, brought him out, put him in the kennel next door, gone into the kennel with him to take the harness off, he would have had many chances to jump up, to mouth me, to steal my leash, to steal my bait bag. Lots of sort of naughty habits can be practiced when you're going in the kennel with the dog. So with your more tricky dogs, I prefer to handle from the outside. So look how fast this is with the slip lead. And you learn really quickly to block the exit with your body so the dog doesn't follow you out. So I'm going to show you how to use a figure 8 leash. The reason it's called a figure 8 leash, maybe if you've been at the shelter, you've noticed that some of the leashes have a clip at the end rather than a handle. And I used to think these were the stupidest leashes. Why would you have this? But you can clip this to the release ring and use the leash to take the leash off, and it makes an 8 when you do that. So that's why it's called a figure 8 leash. If you don't have a figure 8 leash, and this is how I prefer to handle, because holding it by the clip is really not that great. Even if you make it into a little handle, it tightens. So I prefer to handle on my rope leash or my leather leash, but I'll carry a second really light leash in order to take that leash off. So this is just a friendly shelter pit bull type dog. But if she was a trickier dog, I would clip this release leash on right before I went into the kennel ward. And you'll see me brace the kennel door, and you'll notice that I can take this leash off without putting my hand in the kennel. And boy, I wish I had learned this on day 1 in the shelter, because I've used it a lot of times since then. Notice that the release leash is really, really, really loose. You don't want to have them the same length, because if you accidentally pull the wrong leash and you've got a dog running around the shelter, people really don't like it when you do that. So here's that meatball dog again. Pop him back in his kennel. So I'm going to put the figure 8 leash on him while he's in the yard, rather than trying to wrestle the release leash on right in front of his kennel. So we're in the play yard. I have a feeling he might be a little tricky to put away. So I'm going to clip the leash to the ring. Notice how I like to have a different color leash and a different material leash, just so you're really sure you're not going to pull the wrong one. And I'm same side handling him because he's a bit of a meatball. So he's on my left side. I'm holding the leash with my left hand. It just gives you a little less play on the leash. I'm going to get him into the shelter. So if it's a tricky dog, put the release leash on before you get right in here, because trying to get a leash on him now when he's all wiggly and trying to visit everybody and all the barking, it would not be very pretty. So I'm just gonna put him in the wrong kennel, because this one has a door you can see through, and I don't have to go in with them. So that was a kennel that opened inward, but it still worked. So you can use the figure 8 leash with either of these. I've used this with dogs in crates, and they're really good for those dogs who come back at you as soon as you shut the door. Shepherds. So you might need to put a dog in a car or a crate as a trainer. You might not have kennels in your home, but you might have crates. It might be good for fearful dogs who want to take off, and for dogs who don't like collar or neck handling. So I'm going to go into just a little bit of leash craft. I think as dog trainers, as handlers, The leash is what connects us to the dog. It is our instrument. We should be as good with leashes as a musician is with their instrument. This is something that is not taught to my liking in a lot of schools. There's people who still wrap the leash around their hand. There's people who get it around their wrist. And especially if you're going to walk your own 6-pound toy poodle that way, fine. But if you're going to work with dogs with aggression issues, dogs with fear issues, dogs who might bolt, it's really important to know your basic leash holds. I'm not going to go into exhaustive detail on this. Come and see me and Mike at one of our live streams now. We used to do live seminars to teach this with stuffed dogs and with real leashes. But the 3 leash grips that I think everybody should know, you can use your favorite one, but I think you should know all 3 of these, is the thumb lock, the finger lock, and the accordion. So I'm just going to show you a quick video. You can watch the recording and practice along at home until you perfect this if you don't already know it. So I like the thumb lock for the types of slip leads we have at shelters. This is a nice one for a thicker leash like the rope lead. You put it, I never want to be attached to a dog by more than just my thumb, so I've got the thumb and I'm holding the leash, and if I need to bring them in a little closer, I put it over my thumb a second time. And notice I'm holding the entire leash in the hand. There's nothing coming out of the top of my hand. Everything's coming out of the pinky side, like I mentioned. The finger lock is similar, except it goes over your finger instead of your thumb. The chickens are optional. And the accordion, it doesn't go over anything. And the thing I like with the accordion is it's easier to get distance with this. So here's my little spiel on the accordion leash hold.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the accordion leash hold. I like the accordion for when I have to lengthen and shorten, or when I'm working with a dog who I might need to get away from. So like the leash lock, we're going to start with it just over our thumb. You can take one loop and have the dog a bit closer to you, hand over hand like you're holding a baseball bat on your belly button. And if you need to brace, you can just put your weight away from the dog, legs sort of shoulder width apart. If you need to be a little bit closer to the dog, if you need to hold them for the vet or something, but you want to have a leash on them still, hand over hand, you're just going to take 2 accordions and you'll be a little bit closer. You can also hold the dog by the collar, and then if you need to get away from the dog, all you need to do is let go once. And you can get away, you can put a back tie on, you can have a little more space if you need it.
That's one of my favorite shelter dog holds, because you're often lengthening and shortening to go through a shelter. So none of these holds will work if you've got a client with arthritis in their fingers and they've got weak grip strength. You may have to find some other way to attach them to their dogs. And for people who have old injuries, these might not work. But in general, I don't like being attached to dogs. If I'm handling a dog who might become aggressive with me, I really don't want to be attached to that dog. I will be attached to this puppy though, because look how cute. So I think everybody should know a couple of ways to rope muzzle a dog. You should know one. So pick one and learn it well. If you wrap any leash 3 times around a dog's muzzle, that will hold their mouth shut long enough to pick them up and put them in the car. I'm going to show you how to make your slip lead into a muzzle. If it's a calm dog, unless you can throw it, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, these are only for dogs who, this might be your own dog, he's been hit by a car and you need to just pick him up and put him in your car and he's injured. So you just want to pop a muzzle on so he doesn't bite you out of pain. Or just at the vets, if they're going to get an injection, you might want to pop a leash muzzle on if you did not bring your muzzle with you, or if your dog's not muzzle trained. So here's a calm dog. Just make it into the letter P or the letter Q and put it around the muzzle. And that's kind of a slip. That's kind of a head halter as well when you've got it that way. You can put it back around one more time if you want to have a little more security. With a more fearful dog, you're going to keep your distance. And this is Raymond, a really awesome handler at New York City ACNC. This little Jack Russell he just took out of the kennel, he is heading out to rescue. So he really doesn't want him to get another bite on his record, and trying to get near his face and get a muzzle on. He was really snappy in his kennel before he got him out. So he's going to just pop a slip lead muzzle on him to get him up on the cart to get his injection so he can go to rescue. But he's not going to get as close as we did with Kenya in the last slide. So at our live seminars, Mike and I make you practice these things on stuffed dogs. If you cannot do it as quickly and efficiently as Raymond did it on a stuffed dog, you should not be doing this on real dogs. So practice on stuffed dogs. I don't practice this on my own dogs because you can see this is kind of stressful for them. So here's another style of muzzle that you can make out of a slip lead. And I just love Andrew's accent, so I'll let him explain it.
Andrew from Cairns Regional Council, and what I'm about to show you is an emergency muzzle. So you just get your standard lead like this. So what you do, you want to make your loop, and then what you want to do, you want to grab it, fold it over like that, put your hand back through, so it makes a loop like that. Then what we're going to do, we're going to place it on the dog, and you've got two strands that will come under the chin. I'll show you how to do that. So like this. You can tighten it up. Two straps come up behind the ears, nice and close up behind. Then you can either, there's two options. You can tie it off, which gives you a good firm hold of the dog, or second option is you can incorporate with your slip lead, and you can actually walk the dog like this.
So learn one way to get a leash muzzle on a dog, because I guarantee you will need to do it once in your career. And a lot more often than that if you work with shelter dogs. So here's Raymond again. I used to pull dogs from this shelter. This is the Manhattan ACNC, and I worked at the Manhattan ASPCA, so I'd go over every couple weeks and grab some dogs for my shelter, and I always wondered why they had a calf's head in the play yard. Like, it just... is this to freak the dogs out? Is this some kind of test? And Raymond explained why everybody at ACNC can do a throw-in leash muzzle, and they rarely have to use a catch pull or control pull on the dogs. They can actually throw a muzzle from a distance. And they actually make those rope leashes right at ACNC. I have one myself. It's a prized possession. So here's Stan at the Brooklyn ACNC. Somebody has abandoned their dog outside the shelter. They just dropped his leash over a metal pole that is outside. And this dog is quite fearful. He is lunging and grabbing at anything that comes near him. And I said, Stan, can I film how you get this dog off the pole? Because I was sure he was going to need to just put the catch pole on, the control pole, and drag him in on that. And I don't know if you've ever seen a dog on a control pole, but they tend to get quite upset with it. They will spin around, they'll grab at it, they can break teeth, they can bloody their mouths, they can bite their tongue. It's not pretty. It's not my favorite way to move a dog. And he comes out with a control pole. I was like, oh, what's going to happen next? But watch how he gets this dog off the... He's just got the loop of his leash on this metal pole outside the shelter. So the dog didn't have the chance to gnaw on the pole the whole way to his kennel. It was some really nice handling. So again, this is only for quick moves, only for a vet exam, a vet giving a shot. This is not for long-term walks. The dog can't open their mouth. They need to be able to breathe. Regular muzzle is what you use for leash walks. But for picking up an injured dog, or with a dog who's learned to be aggressive towards a regular muzzle or is really upset by a Baskerville type muzzle, sometimes you can get the slip lead on them a little bit faster just for a quick move, for a quick injection. So here's a little dog who really has a strong aversion to regular muzzles, and her mom cat has not had time to condition her to a muzzle yet, and she needed to get an injection, so she opted for a leash muzzle, and it was a lot faster than trying to get a regular muzzle on this particular dog.
Yeah, the girl. Sorry, it's like a little suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
No, be suspicious.
Hey.
Oh, so good. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
That is so much easier.
Yeah.
So she's friendly, happy, fine when she's not being restrained, but she really has some issues with restraints. So that is how she gets sedated for her annual exam. So I mentioned earlier that slip leads can cause tracheal damage if the dog's using them for walks for years and years and years. Teach the dog to walk nicely on a regular collar. Teach them to walk nicely on a harness. Don't use it forever. It's also not great for smaller dogs. They're more prone to tracheal collapse. So you might want to use a head halter or a harness. I'll show you a couple of ways. If you start walking a dog and they are choking themselves out and all you have is a slip lead, I'll show you how to make the slip lead into a harness. There's a few different ways to do it, and I'll show you my favorite. So this one I like because it goes in between the dog's front legs, and that gives you a point of control that's right at the back of their neck. There are people who put it around the dog's waist. I don't like that. It pinches their waist. It makes them really upset. And your point of control is further back. So if the dog decides to bite you, you don't have control of them. You can't hold them away from you. So this through the front legs slip lead harness is my favorite. And here's the fast way to put it on. You're going to keep your head away. You're going to bend from the knees, and you're just going to make a loop with one hand, and then your other hand goes in between the dog's front legs, and you just feed it through that loop. So here's what it looks like.
That's way better.
So that's way better than the way I used to do it, so I stole that technique, and that's how I make a slip lead harness now. If you're walking a dog on a martingale collar and they are pulling hard, they're choking themselves because the martingale tightens slightly, you can make the martingale into a harness as well. So here's how to do that. It just goes right back through the loop of the harness. Again, that gives you control of the dog at near the front of the dog. If it's kind of a tricky dog, you can sort of lay it in front of them and have them walk over it and then pick it up before they get their back legs over it too. So I've worked with a lot of dogs in my time at the ASPCA from hoarding cases. This is a little dog from a hoarding case. Many of them are not used to being on a leash. So this little dog I had to put back in the kennel, and it's good to be able to pick up a dog without getting bitten. So I'll show you what that looks like. You can, if it's a bigger dog, you can get a crate on wheels that you can pop the dog in and just roll them to where they need to be rather than fighting with them on a control pole. They make leashes out of wire. I like the wire ones a little better than the chain link ones because they're only as strong as the weakest link. They make a cable wire leash that you can put that is a slip lead that you can use in all the ways you use a slip lead. They also stay open really nicely if you've got to rope a dog in a kennel who's not being cooperative. I'll show you how to make a leash into a little suitcase handle. And sometimes if this little guy came to my shelter and didn't know how to walk on a leash, I'd probably put an H-back harness, just one that's got a loop that goes around the front leg and then across the back, and I would attach a leash to the back here, just a leash with no handle, just a drag line. So if I need to handle the dog, I can start teaching them to go where I ask them to go. So here's another little dog. I got out to the play yard. It was really clear she'd never been on a leash before. I was not going to walk her all the way back in the shelter on the leash. So when it was time to take her back in, I'm just going to pick her up. So notice that I'm holding my leash hand, my accordion hand forward when I pick her up. And that just prevents her from being able to whip around and bite me as I pick her up. I don't want her to learn that that works. I didn't think she was going to bite me, but I'm going to handle her a little bit defensively just to make sure. So leash hand forward, other hand around the belly, and once I picked her up, she was very cuddly. So there's my friend Caitlin in Colorado picking up a small dog using a towel, who's a little less friendly than the one that I picked up in the previous slide. Get the slip lead on him first, just to control where he's going while she gets the towel on. See if he'll take some treats to get him in position. That did not work, but certainly worth a try. These little dogs are often not so hungry. Doesn't look like he's been on a leash before either. Sometimes it takes a little time to get him in the right position, but again, just go slow to go fast. You don't want to rush it. And off he goes. So here's the suitcase. I use this with dogs who want to lie down on walks. I use this with dogs who might have weaker hind legs than you thought they did, and they might need a little support getting up a stair. And for dogs who don't want to go back in the kennel too, you can also use the suitcase and then get your body behind and sort of guide them back in. So here's poor Theodore at the airport being suitcased for no good reason. Make sure you put it in front of the boy parts. And once he starts walking, you can just drop the leash and go back into your thumb lock. But it's often enough just to get them started with these dogs who stall on walks. So if you do need to use a control pole on a dog, here's a nice option. You can have two people. So the person with the slip lead is the one doing most of the guiding, and the person with the control pole is just going to keep both people safe if the dog does change their mind partway. Usually once you get them out and walking, they're fine. But this dog was hideous in the kennel. He was just awful. And Katie noticed that he was wiggly and happy every time a dog went by, but if a person went by, he was rah, 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 rah. Not so easy to handle. So they used the control pole to get him out to the play yard, and once he got out there and got to play with dogs for a while, this dog made a complete turnaround, decided people were okay because they brought him to play with the dogs. They found out he was super social with dogs, and that helped him get out. This behavior was only in the shelter. So here's the rolling crate. This is a great option if you regularly handle difficult dogs. Rather than using the control pole to walk this dog a long way to the vet, he can just be gently put into the crate. And here's some really nice use of the control pole as kind of a rigid leash rather than as something you sort of push the dog with. You're just using it like a leash, but you've got that rigidity if the dog tries to bite you. You learn to brace the doors with your foot pretty early on in any shelter. You want to use the control pole nice and gently. And they're just giving them the option of hopping into the rolling shoreline kennel, and that's just much kinder to the dog than taking him on a longer walk with that pole. Some of the dogs who don't want to come out of the kennel or don't want to walk, it can be helpful to bring a therapy dog. I've actually seen people use a stuffed dog to get a dog to follow down the aisleway between the kennel. This little dog was afraid of her own neighborhood, so I brought Theodore to go on some walks with her. And it's funny, they'll often believe another dog when they won't believe you. So here she is walking around her neighborhood for the first time since there was some construction shortly before this happened, and she just decided she was not going out her front door anymore. But with a buddy, it's okay. So often a couple of therapy dog walks and the dog feels pretty differently, and I think if you've got a really friendly dog like my boy Theodore, he's worth his weight in gold. I use him with client dogs all the time, and he's great with fearful dogs. So a few handling skills that you should know. This is Delise in real life with my head where her head should be. This is a funny slide. It's important to learn to avoid potential triggers. You've got to look ahead of you and be able to avoid things. And in order to do that, it's good to be able to switch all of those holds from one side to the other, which is another thing Mike and I make you practice if you come to our seminars. I'm going to show you a couple more defensive techniques. Again, this isn't an exhaustive review of defensive handling, but I'll show you the straight arm and the back tie, because those will save you from a pickle if a dog changes their mind and decides to bite you. I'll give you a few tips on working with dogs who grab the leash. This is a common way to lose control of the dog. They grab the leash and sometimes they'll start scissoring through it. So you really need to have a few techniques to get a dog like this to let go. You can do a lot with the leash handling. If you have the leash at the back of the dog's neck where they can't see it, they're less likely to grab it. Keep your hands quiet. Don't flail that leash around. The equipment can make a difference. This is one reason I don't like the front attach harnesses, is for dogs who tend to climb the leash. It's just dangling right in front of them. You might want to use a different tool like a head halter or a slip lead. You can try to redirect them with a toy. I'll show you a video of that. You could make the leash taste terrible. You can use a metal leash, whether it's a chain or a cable lead. And you can also run the leash around something, which is a back tie. I have also seen people use two leashes where the dog carries one and you carry one. I don't have video of that, but if you're good at it, send me a video. So here's my friend Allie taking a really difficult dog out of his kennel. This is a dog who's just a frantic leash grabber. This was, again, totally kennel behavior. Once he got into foster, he never did this again. And notice she's got her figure 8 leash on the back. That's a New York City Animal Control, the figure 8 leash, and you do not let leash grabbers get those. So she's using a crappier leash to get this dog out. So you'll see she's got the toy right in the middle of the leash. She's going to brace the kennel with her foot, get the dog on the ball as she puts the leash on, and then get him out quickly and efficiently. You can also get the dog to release the leash for a treat. This is where having high value treats can be helpful. I usually have 2 different types of treats in my treat bag. There'll be the plain old boring ones, and then there'll be something really great like string cheese. So you'll notice what Allie does. She's going to use a bit of the straight arm when he starts climbing the leash. She actually grabbed her sweater at one point on this. She's going to show him the treats, and she's saying, usually I just let him run around the yard when we get him out, but I'm going to show you another technique. So she lets him sniff the treats. She's got a few of them in her hand, not just one, and then she scatters them on the ground. So he starts sniffing and looking for treats rather than grabbing one and grabbing back at the leash. So this is just some really nice handling. The straight arm.
I wanted to drop it, but I'm not for the video.
So now he's in sniffy, find the treat mode, and you can rearrange things and get the leash around the top of his neck, or get him into another area. Another thing you can do is get the dog to bite something that is not your leash. So this was a dog who was super aroused in his kennel. He was biting at everything that went by, and you'll see by his body language, this is not aggression, this is just arousal. He's just happy to bite things. And you can see this is a very small kennel. There's no bed, there's no blanket, there's no toy. He's been in there for his entire 3-day stray hold. He's actually been hosed in the kennel. You can see how it's still wet from the morning hosing, which should be illegal. This shelter has been bulldozed. This city now has a better shelter, so this place doesn't exist anymore. But this is kind of what we had to work with. So you will see this is Cody Sadler from Dogs Playing for Life. And when he went in to get this dog out, I was like, please take a volunteer and a camera because I want to see how you get him out. I thought he'd have to use a control pole because he was just biting everything. So watch how Cody gets him out. So he's got hold of the crappy leash, and then he gets the good leash around his neck. And this dog was great. Once we got him out into the play yard, he was a really dog social dog. All of this, again, is an artifact of how the poor thing had to live. So some dogs are really good at getting the dog on the leash on the wrong side of their walking equipment. Here's a dog on a front attach harness. I think I've got it double attached. You can double attach this to a martingale collar. Oh no, I don't. There's the loop. If it's a dog who might get out of the harness, you can clip it to both rings. But if the leash gets around the other side of the dog, if she goes and has a pee and comes back and the leash is on the other side, you need to be really good at sort of flipping it back around their nose so that it's dog, leash, and you, rather than leash, dog, and then you. So this is a dog who is really good at getting the leash on the wrong side of her face. So you'll see me using I eventually give up and just use my treat to put her in the right position. So I'm same side handling because she's a pretty reactive dog. I'm not sure if she's going to redirect on me if another dog walks past this play area. So she's on my left side. I'm using my left hand to handle her. Wrong side. Wrong side again. And then I bring the treat out to keep her there. She was very wiggly. This was her first time on a gentle leader, and we're doing kind of a quick and dirty gentle leader conditioning session with her where you just put a little bit of pressure on the head halter, and as soon as she turns in the direction you want her to turn, you release the pressure and you give her a treat. And you can get a dog used to wearing a head halter pretty quickly with this technique. Not all dogs, but this one we got her walking on it pretty quickly.
That was my fox. I'm getting dizzy. So what if she...
So again, she's same side handling. She's using left hand to handle the dog on her left side and cross-body feeding, which is going to make all you obedience people cringe, but with a tricky dog, this is a good way to handle them. And you can see how well the dog is walking already on the gentle leader, just being very generous with the treats. Here's my patented string cheese trick. I really like something a little longer lasting. Squeeze cheese works well. If you've got a dog who eats fingers, you can just squeeze cheese into them all the way back to their kennel. So again, this is the reactive dog. She's coming back from her gentle leader training. I'm going to put the string cheese on her nose and not give her the opportunity to yell at anybody. So it's just kind of quick and dirty counter conditioning. When we walk by other dogs, you get a lot of really delicious string cheese. So remember that Beauceron looking dog that Stan took off the pole a couple slides ago? How is he going to get his slip lead off that dog when he puts it in the kennel? Well, it's a figure 8 leash, so this is how he does it. He's already clipped it to the ring. You see how he's helping the dog in with his knees. It's one of those stupid kennels that they have to step up into. I don't love those. But he didn't have to put his hands in, because you don't want this dog to get a bite on his record on his first day at the shelter. I'll do a little bit of defensive handling stuff. Again, that's not the main focus of this talk. I'm just showing you some things that I learned from shelter handlers that might help you in real life. So with a dog who might redirect on you or might just direct on you, you can use what's around you. You saw Delise using the pig board to block the dog while they got the slip lead on. Anything that's around you. Get it between you and the dog. You can feed the dog something, feed them a toy, feed them another leash, and that can keep them away. So here's the pig board. If you wanted to use it to break up a dog fight, you can bring it in from the back and block the dog's view. Very vicious huskies. Those are nice light. They're for sorting pigs in pens, and they also work really well on dogs. So if you've got a daycare, you might want to have one of those around. Here's a little bit of dual handling with a really difficult dog. This is his first walk after he tried to kill one of the dogs in his home. So his handler is holding the leash out of the top of her hand. We'll fix that later. I've got most of the control of this dog because I've got his head halter on underneath his Baskerville muzzle. She's just coming along as training wheels, just getting her confident with walking him. So the back tie, this is such a valuable thing. If you do not have a place to run a leash through and pull a dog away from you in your training facility, put one in. Just put a door handle in that comes out and down and across. I like to have a back tie at about waist level. You don't want to be leaning over and getting your face in the dog's face, and if it's up too high, you don't have enough leash to get away. So kind of hip level's a good spot. So whenever I'm working with a dog, whenever I'm going to a new shelter and I have to handle tricky dogs, I will look for all of the back ties, and I will know where all of the spots are that I can run the leash around and pull the dog away from me. So this is Joanne's dog. I can't remember what the distraction was, but she just ran the leash around a tree and was able to hold this pretty strong dog as something went by. Picket fences can be good, chain link fences, maybe a door handle if the door is locked, like a loop door handle. So I'm going to put this meatball dog on a back tie, just using the chain link fence that was there. You don't have to say haha. The other poles here were holding up an awning and they're not very stable. So in this particular spot, the chain link was the best place to back tie him. He didn't actually need to be back tied. This guy did need to be back tied. He was about a 90-pound dog I worked with at a shelter in Australia. I thought I was just lecturing. I'm wearing my lecture clothes, and they're like, now show us some of the stuff with dogs. And this guy had been returned for trying to bite the woman in the home. So he was okay with men, but with women, he thought it was really fun to just sort of jump up and grab you by your body parts. So they were a little bit surprised when I asked for them to bring that dog out when they wanted to see a demo. And I had noticed these wonderful railings all over this shelter, and I thought that is the perfect spot to just kind of give him a leash time out. He's super friendly, like he's biting out of love, but sometimes love hurts. And you can see they've made a slip lead by running the leash through the handle. So I don't have a handle here. I've just got a clip. But you make do with what you have. This is shelter wrangling. And what I wanted to do with this guy was teach him, if you come at me and you try to jump and mouth, I'm just going to take a step away from you. And if you sit, then you get all the love. And that's what he wanted, was love and snacks. Now, the unfortunate part with this particular leash is it kept getting quite tight around his neck. So whenever I went up and petted him, I'd sort of loosen it so he could breathe. Nobody makes good decisions while they're being strangled. So I did not want to put any more pressure on him than I needed to. He really liked the ear slides. And I ended up attaching a second slip lead to that clip so that I could get a little further away from him. Once we developed a bit of a relationship, But he was just a sweet, sweet boy. And at this particular shelter, his life was at risk. If we could not get a handle on this, he was not going to be adoptable by their criteria. Here's my friend Nell handling him. She's an awesome handler. And I wanted him to generalize to other women. And after both of us had worked with this dog on the back tie, just really clearly taking a couple steps away every time he jumped up. And if he sat, he decided he had to sit on that ramp. And if he sat, we'd come over and we'd pet him. And one of the women from the shelter watched both of us do this. And then she was the third one to come over. So I hope we saved him. He's a lovely dog. So if you're handling a dog and they decide to bite you, or to start snapping and trying to bite you, or to redirect towards you, it's important to know how to do a straight arm. So this is Luis. He's a great handler. He is going to he's doing a behavior assessment. That's why he's riling the dog up. And the dog kind of changes her mind about him partway through this assessment and starts sort of snapping at him. And he's strong enough to do this with one hand. When I do it, I need both hands usually, unless it's a really small dog. So you see how he moves his body away from the dog and holds his hand straight out. He'd have a little more strength if he held it coming out of the bottom of his hand, but you sort of have what you have when a dog's trying to bite you. So here's a dog that tried to bite me doing the same assessment in the same room on a different day, and I was holding the leash in 2 accordions, and then I had my hand through the dog's collar. And I'm really glad I was handling especially defensively, because this dog was giving me no friendly body language. And, you know, I'm a pit bull person. I love pit bulls, and they should be in there going, "Hi, I don't know you, but I love you." And he was just a zero dog. He had no interest in me. And I had a feeling this might be coming.
Please. Please.
And if he'd continued jumping at me, there was a back tie in the room that I could have taken him to and pulled him up against the wall while my partner went and got a control pull. So they put that into slow-mo for the ASPCA Defensive Handling Series, and it's amazing how fast a dog's mouth is. Watch how many times he tries to bite me in that one quick up and down. I thought it was just once. So there's left arm, right arm, and a lunge at my belly. So that really underlines how important the leash handling is, how important it is to have the leash at the correct distance to the dog that you're handling. So if it's a dog who might possibly bite you, know your environment. I had my eye on the back tie ring as soon as he's coming up at me. I thought, if this continues, I'm going to back tie you. So a couple last things that you can do. It's a good idea to get comfortable with control position. If you ever need to use a break stick, you'll need to hold the dog in control position first. It's great for restraining wiggly dogs. When I take my pit bull to Tractor Supply, he really wants to go right to the front of the line and meet everybody there, and we can't do that now. So I'll just put my knees between his rib cage and his hips, and that will keep him from going forward without me putting any pressure on his neck. And if I did need to use a break stick, if I have the strength, I can move the dog and break their eye contact. But in this position, the dog can't bite you. Whether you've got the collar or the scruff, she cannot come around either way and get me. So this is a pretty safe way to hold a dog if you do need to break up a fight. So I'm not going to go into exhaustive detail on how to break up a dog fight. I've got a whole... I'm recording this late at night, so my dogs will be quiet, but the cat just knocked the light over. So let me start again. So I'm going to talk a little bit about breaking up a dog fight, how to get a dog to let go of things that they are gripping, whether it's you or another dog. Again, this is not exhaustive. I would need another hour to do this, but start with your least invasive tools. If you've got a dog who is starting an argument with another dog, sometimes you can get them to back off with just a little water or your voice. If you need protective clothing, you may want to wear it if you're working with dogs who might bite you. You can feed the dogs clothes that you are wearing. When Mike and I do this seminar in Canada, we have people tell their dog bite stories, and the further north you are, the less hurt people get because they're often wearing a lot of winter clothing when they get bitten. So I went through the list of some of the noise interrupters. You can use smell or taste interrupters like citronella spray. And if you have a lot of dogs who are in a fight, if you have a daycare, you might want to have an air horn so that if you've got a 2-dog fight that's about to turn into a 10-dog fight, you can sort of scatter them with something really loud. If a dog is gripping another dog or you can use the wheelbarrow. You can pick them up by the hind legs right at the very top of the legs where the legs join the body. You don't want to grab the bottom of the legs where they can twist around and hurt themselves and twist around and get you. Sort of lift, separate. You can push the dog into the bite to get them to let go. And if you've got a dog who's gripping something and not letting go, or if you work with the types of dogs who might have this biting style, you may want to have a break stick on hand. And again, you can get those in the Loose Leash Academy's fight kits. So this is a break stick that is made by Barry's Break Sticks. My ex-husband makes a really nice break stick, and talk a little bit about where that goes. The nice thing with dogs is they've got a lot of little teeth right behind the canines, which leaves a gap that you can wiggle a break stick in. So you want to just sort of wiggle it in right behind the canine teeth. You don't have to get it very far in, just an inch or so, and then you're going to twist it like you're twisting a motorcycle. I've never ridden a motorcycle. Apparently you twist the handles to get them to go faster. So that's the motorcycle twist once you get the break stick in. So here's Dr. Pam Reed using a break stick. She is a tiny little woman, and this is a really strong dog, and you can see how the leverage of the stick is able to get him to release his grip. So notice she's in control position. She's got her legs behind his rib cage. She's grabbing him by the scruff rather than the collar. I've had collars break when I'm doing this, but I've never had a scruff break. I'm guessing that's why she made that choice. And you can see that she twists the stick in both ways to see if she can get the dog to release. Not in pain. That's a predatory scream. That's something that I've seen the fighting dogs do. And you can see that dog cannot whip around and bite her. So she's going to hold him like that until the thing he is upset about is out of sight. So in conclusion, I hope I have convinced you to go volunteer at a shelter. There's lots you can learn from shelter handlers, and there's lots shelter handlers can learn from dog trainers. Again, we're going to start with positive reinforcement. We're going to use our snacks to move the dogs around to get them in the positions we need to. We're going to set up the environment, use the tools that we need to get the dogs to stay safe around the dogs. And just having the knowledge, now having some good defensive handling skills, having some good leash handling skills, and some of the techniques I've shown you in this can help you get out of a pickle. So come and see me and Mike at the Aggression in Dogs live streams that we are doing throughout 2021. I think there's one more in 2020, and we have transitioned it to a Zoom where you can do the wrangling with your own stuffed dog at home and we can watch you on the camera. It's not quite as much fun as being able to see everybody in person, but hopefully we will be back to live conferences at some point. So here's my contact information if you would like to follow me on Facebook. If my business page is McMillan Animal Behavior, my personal page is Trish McMillan. There's a few of us out here, but I probably have a picture of this dude. That's his page, Pibbling with Theodore. He has a lot more friends than I do, and he's funnier than I am. And he is also on Instagram. So thank you for inviting me to speak. I hope that these techniques are helpful. Feel free to watch the recording and play along. Practice them at home, practice them with safe dogs or with stuffed dogs so that if you do need to use the techniques to get out of a pickle, you will have them.